on your right, Andrew Tenjum on your left. You see Thompson is your 5th seed. Tenjum is your 8th seed. So Gerry will be on the play with a Hollow Fountain, and our semifinals of the Star City Games Invitational in New Jersey is underway.
Now, Andrew Tenjum's build of this list is not the fastest version. It doesn't run Flinttooth Boar. That does not mean it can't come out quick. Avacyn's Pilgrim to start. Turn 2, does he have one of the many 3-drops?
He's tapping some mana. Looks like he does have a Domri Rod. So he's going to start off right here by ticking this up and seeing if this is the kind of card that can dominate a game. Up we go. Does not find a creature, and is going to pass the turn back to Thompson.
Now, the number of non-creatures in his deck, there are 2 Mizium Mortars, 2 Selesnya Charm, and besides the Domri in play, 3 more, and then land.
Yeah. So his Domris are going to hit more often than not. Does have 28 creatures in his deck. As Thompson's going to draw his card, he's going to play a Clifftop Retreat, it looks like. And just going to pass the turn back. Again, Thompson's deck is a little bit different than Shields. I know you guys just got done watching Dave Shields at length in the quarterfinals, because he has a lot more counter magic than Shields does, as here comes Voice of Resurgence off of Domri. He's got 2 Dissipates, 2 Essence Scatters, a Syncopate, so he can actually counter some spells. So the first thing you look for when you see counter spells is, does Tenjum have Cavern of Souls?
He does not have Cavern of Souls. The only special land that you can see in his deck is 1 Gavany Township.
So Voice of Resurgence is going to meet a Dissipate. There is some of that counter magic there from Thompson. And Thompson employing counter magic right now because the lack of Cavern of Souls in the format. In the matchup that you guys briefly saw between Gerry and the Reanimator player in Dustin Flora, Dustin only had 1 Cavern of Souls through his 75. Cavern has really kind of slid out of favor in this format, Adrian.
4th land from Gerry, absolutely there. You're completely correct, Cedric. And part of it is that there haven't been very many counter spells.
So when counter spells go away, Caverns go away. So as a result, counter spells can come back, and then that means that Caverns can come back. Just
absolutely
not right now. You can't bring him in out of nowhere now, can Tenjum. So he doesn't have any, which means that counter spells are going to be a very effective tool against him, as Domri ticks up to 6, looking to get to that magic number of 7.
That brought a Boros Reckoner, you can see at the forefront of Andrew Tenjum's hand, that Domri finding it for him.
Sacred Foundry going to come into play untapped here. Looks like he's going to be tapping 3 mana. Is it time for a Reckoner? It is.
Reckoner, a very good card against Gerry Thompson's removal. You can get rid of a Reckoner, but you know what? It's going to get rid of whatever you use to get rid of it, unless you're talking about turn burn, and Gerry Thompson has 2 Ratchet Bombs.
Yep. Gerry's deck a little softer to Reckoner than he normally is. Of course, Gerry top 8ing Pro Tour Gatecrash in Montreal with the Boros Reckoners in his blue-white-red deck. As you see Restoration Angel going over towards Domri. This is exactly what I was talking about at the top. And they can actually control Domri, where your Esper decks, depending on your build of course, has a lot more difficulty being able to do that. You can stick a Domri on turn 2 as Tenjum did and just go up, 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 and there's nothing an Esper deck can really do about it, as here's a Selesnya Charm on the end step here, gonna make a 2/2 Reduke token.
You know, if you're gonna make a knight, Reduke's a good choice.
Yes, it is, as Tenjum is gonna untap. He's gonna draw, and we'll see if he has something like a Thundermaw Hellkite here. Maybe Domri can help him find one of those, because it is gonna keep ticking up.
If worse comes to worse, if he wants to actually try to kill that angel, a Boros Reckoner fighting with via Domri can kill the angel, but that would lose him 2 counters on his Domri, and he would lose the Boros Reckoner.
Yeah, the one thing about Domri in this matchup is I just simply do not believe that getting to the emblem is realistic. I think Gerry just has too many ways to stop him from doing that. So you have to look at Domri as a card drawing engine in this matchup. Excuse me. Hopefully it does hit multiple times from Tenjum and he can draw a couple extra cards. But the emblem, it's not something I think we're going to see happen. As you see a Gavany Township activation from Tenjum, looks like Gerry's going to have a response.
Okay, what is he going to do? Azorius, think twice to start. Azorius Charm would be pretty nice.
Looks like nothing is going to happen here. Yeah.
I wonder if what's going to happen is after this combat, if we're going to see Boros Reckoner fight an angel.
Yeah, it becoming a 4/4 now. Due to that township counter, that would be a pretty good spot to be in if you're Tenjum. You see Thompson's hand right now. He does have one of his 2 Supreme Verdicts in his hand. If you remember, if you follow the evolution of Blue White Red from Gerry Thompson's articles or watching him play in these tournaments, you know, he's gone very different ways with blue, white, red. Sometimes he has one Supreme Verdict, sometimes he has Terminus, sometimes he has multiple Supreme Verdicts throughout his 75. This weekend he goes with 2 of them, as you're going to see that fight that you did mention with the Reckoner and the Angel, and now some damage going upstairs, and Supreme Verdict is going to play a big role in this matchup.
Think twice at the end of the turn after that fight. Gerry has a Verdict to clear the table, but that won't stop the Domri from still being there.
Yep. I believe he is going to have to clear the table here, depending on how he wants to use his resources. He does have a War Leader Helix in his hand. You're also going to find a Pillar of Flame, but he has to be scared right now of Thundermaw Hellkite just coming out of nowhere to get in for 5 hasty points of damage.
Gerry Thompson, 7 life is not very much. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, Supreme Verdict, and a Pillar of Flame. He's cleared up the table. Will there be a Thundermaw Hellkite to follow up?
It's a really good turn there for Thompson. Taking care of all the problems on the board, kind of just crossing his fingers, hoping Tenjum doesn't have the large, hasty threat. It doesn't look like he does. I think he would have slammed down Thundermaw if he did and forced Thompson to have an answer to it. It looks like he might be reaching for a Gore Clan Rampager. He's going to tap 3 mana. It might just be another replacement Domri.
4 mana.
It is a Rampager. This is maybe a Sacred Foundry, a Temple Garden coming into play tap. And for Thompson, this is a perfect world situation. We know he has a War Leader's Helix in his hand, so now he can trade with that. But more importantly, Adrian, push himself up to 11 life, which is a ton at this stage of the game.
And remember, both of these players have had each other's deck lists. Gerry knows there is no trick that Andrew has in his main deck that could save the Gore Clan Rampager from that Helix.
Yeah, and so he's going to Helix that right away. He's going to gain his life, going to play a Ghost Quarter, conveniently an answer to Gavany Township if that does get out of control.
Andrew Tenjum does have 2 basics in his deck.
Okay.
So the Ghost Quarter will go away, but it won't be like a simple strip mine.
Yeah, you know, it acts as a strip mine / wasteland in some matchups. Not this one, as you did mention, because of the basics that Tenjum does have. But more importantly, it's just going to take care of Gavany Township if Thompson deems it to be a problem. As here is a Boros Reckoner. Tenjum trying to get some more board presence. But here's the issue with Naya against Thompson's deck that you can see. It's a little bit slower to the board than the Flint of Gore version that you mentioned, as Tenjum's going to play a Sacred Foundry and pass the turn back. So Thompson can build a little bit of velocity, start to get through his deck with Think Twice and Sphinx's Revelation. You see an Azorius Charm in his hand as well. And if we speak of Azorius Charm, that's a card that's insane against Tenjum's deck.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're going to invest your entire turn on a big creature, and Gerry Thompson can just put it right back on top, and then on that same turn, maybe activate a Moorland Haunt, maybe flash back a Think Twice, maybe cast a Restoration Angel. Very, very important for Gerry to have cards like that. We see another land from Andrew Tenjum.
Yeah, starting to flood out a little bit here. Here comes the Boros Reckoner. You saw Thompson took 2 off that Hallowed Fountain as his land drop for the turn. That signifies that probably a Revelation is coming for him. As you see Tenjum move his lands to the side, you're going to see an activation of that Gavany Township, and Gerry says, that's perfectly fine. I'm more than happy to take 4 and go down to 5. If you're Tenjum, you can't be feeling very good right now because you know he's going to be likely drawing 5 cards and gaining 5 life.
Yeah, I mean, Gerry Thompson doubling his life total, not a very exciting place to be. We see a Domri Rod. Domri ticks up, appears like. There we go. The tick up. Anything? Nothing.
Nope. So there is that Revelation for 5. Thompson going to draw 5 cards. More importantly, he's going to gain 5 life, push his life total up to 10. We'll see exactly what he did find as he draws a card for the turn. You see Pillar of Flame, the last card among all of those cards he went through. But it looks like to me, Adrian, that he drew a lot of lands off that Revelation.
You know, better drawing him in one big swoop than having to spend 4 turns drawing him.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. You know, for Revelation to really end up being just a glorified gain 5 life is pretty painful. You want that to be able to find some more resources, be able to let you chain Revelation into Revelation, which I'm not sure he can do here, as Thompson's going to start by tapping some mana on his turn. He's going to flash back a Think Twice to get the party started and see what he can find with this draw.
There's a Syncopate. Well, that's good against things in Andrew's hand. What about the table, though?
Well, you do see a Syncopate. You see the Pillar Flame. He has to pass the turn back, which means Domri gets to hang out for a little bit longer. I think if, you know, Thompson had a Snapcaster Mage, we may have seen Snapcaster Mage, War Leader's Helixing that Domri so it doesn't get out of control any further. As Tenjum draws his card, we know it's not a creature, of course, because Domri missed last turn.
Now, Andrew here, he's wondering, what is he fearing? He knows that Gerry probably would have cast a Supreme Verdict. Well, not probably, might have cast a Supreme Verdict. So, marching on in, are we going to see an Azorius Charm? Did we say that was in his hand?
Yeah, he does have one in his hand, and this is a crucial point in the game, because does he want to use Azorius Charm as a way to put the Boros Reckoner back on top of Tenjum's deck, especially when it's very clear that he's not going to activate Gavony Township, or does he want to use that to cycle, get a little bit deeper into his deck, and try to find another Sphinx Revelation or a Snapcaster Mage for the Revelation in his graveyard, or for the Warleader's Helix in his graveyard?
One thing he can potentially do is basically just take it unless Andrew activates the Township.
Yeah, I think if Andrew activates the Township, it's pretty easy for Gerry to Azorius Charm that. Then Tenjum would activate the Domri, he would draw the Boros Reckoner, and could probably relay it. But instead, Gerry's just going to take the damage, Thundermaw Hellkite off of the top via Domri, and now this changes the equation here for Thompson, because he knows that Thundermaw is coming. So that means he has to leave up the necessary mana to be able to syncopate that card moving forward.
And that's a lot of mana that he's having to syncopate against. Syncopate, having to spend X mana to get that effect. That's, and another land. Normally I wouldn't be very excited at this point in the game to get that land, but against Gerry Thompson's specific hand, it's not so terrible, actually.
And Tenjum could have casted Thundermaw Hellkite here post-combat. Also, he could have activated Domri pre-combat to try to find a Thundermaw Hellkite and then slam it down. But he's opting just to hold that. The threat of that maybe making Thompson change the way that he plays the game, and we know he has an Azorius Charm, and he chooses not to cycle it here. So he's still just holding on to that charm. How is he going to use that moving forward? Again, a huge question, as he's going to play a Sulfur Falls. He has a Supreme Verdict in his hand, and again, how does he want to use that? And he's happy to trade 1 for 1 here.
When he's got so much red removal, forcing Andrew to put something to the table, that's always good, because now, let's say that Andrew puts down the Thundermaw, he might be able just to syncopate it straight up and never have to worry about it again.
This was a big draw from Tenjum.
Wow.
He draws Voice of Resurgence to lead off with, so that if Thompson does have a counterspell and Azorius Charm, he's going to get an elemental from that. So this actually is a huge draw from Tenjum in this situation, because Voice of Resurgence makes it so that he can activate Naya pre. He's going to miss with that. But now he can actually cast Thundermaw Hellkite, and again, if Thompson does have the counterspell, which we know he has, it's going to give Tenjum an elemental token and make it so that he has 4 power on the board. So here's your dragon.
And I think Thompson's going to say, you know what? I would prefer you have an elemental to a hasty dragon.
Syncopated is going to take care of the dragon, but give Tenjum an elemental token, as Thompson's going to untap. Again, Adrian, knowing that the top card of Tenjum's deck is not a creature, so that has to be a comforting feeling.
Augur of Bolas. I think as long as he, gets anything, he's going to be ecstatic. But even if he gets nothing, he's still surviving.
Dissipate kind of feels like nothing in this situation, but that's what the Augur is going to find. Again, Thompson just looking for Sphinx's Revelation desperately. There is the Pillar of Flame. That's going to take care of
Get out of
Voice
here.
of Resurgence.
A 1/1 elemental left.
Augur will be able to beat that in a fight, or at least hold it for a little while.
Only 1 card, I believe, in Andrew's hand there. That could easily go up very quickly with the Domri.
So Domri is going to go up, and it's at 7, so he might actually be able to get to emblem range. And if Domri can get to emblem range, it's almost impossible for Thompson to win. It's very rare that you see it happen against blue-white red, excuse me, but creatures you control have double strike, trample, hexproof, and haste. That's unbeatable for a Glacial Fortress deck. It cannot be done.
We see 3 mana being spent, maybe a little bit more.
So 6 mana here?
Are we gonna, Mizium Mortars with Kicker, or
Okay.
Overload,
Yeah, sure.
just in case a Restoration Angel comes to join the party.
I actually like this play a lot.
Very
It
good.
would be very easy for him to just pay 2 mana and Mizium Mortars trying to take care of the Augur Bolas, but if Gerry is sandbagging a Restoration Angel, that plan gets blown up very badly, so this is a very nice play here from Tenjum. Gerry gonna cycle Azorius Charm. What does he find? It's an Essence Scatter. Not you. Not interested in you, my friend, but we know he has that Dissipate, so this might be worth dissipating.
There are not very many non-creature spells worth note from Andrew Tenjum. Essence Scatter works just fine.
3 mana, locks it on Smiter. So Tenjum is out of cards, but he's got the most important thing in the game right now, and that's a Domri on 7 counters threatening to go to its ultimate. Thompson draws. I believe it's a land.
Yeah, I think that was a land as well. Essence Scatter, land, land, land?
I think that's his hand. There's a Sacred Foundry. He has to pass the turn back in the face of a Domri that's going to go ultimate. Tenjum draws. I can't imagine that this would not happen. And there it goes. Domri Emblem is going to come in here for Andrew Tenjum. All of his creatures for the rest of this game, Adrian, have double strike. They've got trample, they've got hexproof, and they've got haste.
I don't think I have seen this happen in months, actually.
It's been a very, very long time. I know the last time, and actually the first time that I saw this happen was at an invitational in Atlanta, the previous one that we did coverage on, against Esper, and the Esper player conceded immediately.
We see a potential 2 damage, maybe 3 with the Gavney Township pump.
Make that 6.
Oh, the double strike.
Yes.
That's right. Oh my goodness, all those abilities. That would be death. And remember, Gerry can't save the creature with and actually the trample. Good lord.
Yeah. Domri's Emblem
so
is
much.
This is what you're going through right now is the same thing I went through with Domri's Emblem, where I was like, oh, well, why isn't he a Zora Charming this guy? You can't. Well, you know, at least he's not taking that much damage. No, he is.
Trample.
No, he really is, because of trample and double strike. Well, how's he able to attack with this guy? Well, they all have haste.
That's right.
Domri's Emblem is completely bonkers, which is why it's so difficult to get to, and which is why it's Thompson's job to keep that under control. You saw him try to do that with Restoration Angel earlier. The Pillar of Flame killed the first one, but the game went so long that the second Domri got to 7, got to ultimate, and that's lights out if you can ever get there.
I mean, I know that I was talking with several different deck builders, one of them Pro Tour finalist Brian Davis, who's making a lot of decks these days, and he said the reason he put Detention Spheres back in his Esper deck, Domri, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just Domri.
You have to be able to beat that card. You cannot let it get to its ultimate, as we are going to bring it back to the booth here for you guys, because it is trivia time, my friends.
Absolutely.
It's time to give away those 6 months of premium. The way we'll play this game is the same we always do. We're going to ask you a question. We'd like you to hashtag your answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium on Twitter, and we will select from one person that does get it correct. So it is about accuracy, not speed, and we will announce our winner at the conclusion of our semifinals. And the question is, Gerry Thompson won the last invitational, as you guys are probably aware, playing blue, white, red, and Shardless Bug, as he did do this weekend. And Adrian, when you do win an invitational, you're able to put your likeness on a token. He made an avatar token.
That's right.
What card makes that 2020 avatar that Gerry Thompson decided to have his token of? For able to name that card, hashtag the answer, SCG Premium. Again, Gerry Thompson, he's a 2020 avatar. Trust me, he'll let you know about it if you ask. Tells me all the time. What card basically inspired that 2020 avatar token from Cold Snap? That's the only hint I'll give you. SCG Premium for the hashtag on Twitter. We'll announce the winner of the people who do get it correct at the conclusion of the semifinals. As you and I, we're going to take a look at the sideboards right now. We'll see what Thompson can do down a game here. Looks like he's got quite a few tools to bring in. Among them, I think a good place to start, you mentioned Detention Sphere from Brian Davis. He's got one of those. I think that's immediately coming in.
I think you're completely correct.
Then we take a look, we see Oblivion Ring, we see a Aetherling, 2 copies of Clone, 2 Izzet Static Casters, and Assemble the Legion, an Oblivion Ring, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Negate, an additional War Leader's Helix, a Pillar of Flame, additional Supreme Verdict. So for me, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I see a Supreme Verdict, I see a Pillar of Flame, War Leader's Helix, all that pinpoint removal pretty good here. I like Oblivion Ring, I like Detention Sphere. The tough one here are the 2 copies of Clone, because they've got some nice targets.
I was going to actually say exactly what you said with that, and the question mark on the Clone. I'm not 100% sure. The question really is, how much better is it than some of his other cards? There's only 60 cards to work with in his main deck. It could be that the Clone might be the 60th and 59th card, or it could be that it might be the 61st and 62nd.
And another roundabout option as well, you see those 2 copies of Negate, and I bring those up because we saw Domri dominate that last game. But when you see Tenjum's sideboard on the left, you see 2 copies of Burning Earth, you see 3 copies of Boros Charm. Those cards are worth negating, my friend.
Yes. And the thing is, Boros Charm is certainly going to be brought in by Andrew Tenjum.
Oh yeah.
Boros Charm basically can be the best counterspell for Supreme Verdict ever. Because if they don't draw the Supreme Verdict, well, you can just kill them with it.
I mean, that's the big thing, is that some of Tenjum's cards in game 1 are a little bit mediocre. You see a card like Museum Mortars, even though we saw that creative play of him overloading it so he doesn't get ruined by a Restoration Angel, that card's going to come out.
Right.
And we'll probably see Celestial Charm come out as well, so he's able to replace those mediocre spells with better ones here in Boros Charm. As you said, that card's incredibly versatile in this matchup. And Burning Earth. How many basics does Thompson have in his deck? The answer is 2.
Yeah, and we did see in round 2 of the Invitational, a Naya player, very much like Andrew, bring in Burning Earth specifically against Flash. And that was Huey, who lost to Burning Earth in game 2 from this exact deck. And when I say this exact deck, I mean this exact deck. It was the 1 Sublime Archangel deck with this exact setup. I think it's about a 73, though, of 75 cards.
We see Tenjum is going to throw it back. He's going to go down to 5 cards here. Again, for Tenjum, his 9 deck is not the most aggressive one, but it's got a lot of very good individual threats. Lockstone Smiter demands an answer. Boros Reckoner demands an answer. Thunderbolt Hellkite demands an answer. So you can basically keep throwing haymakers at Thompson and say, hey, you got to answer this one. Now this one. Now this one. And we saw in the first game, Gerry unable to do that. I think for him, he's able to board in some more cards to make it so that he can trade 1 for 1, resolve a big revelation, chain those revelations, and for Thompson, hopefully his first revelation, and actually find something of relevance this time, because the first one in this matchup was a complete and utter brick.
Now, the nightmare for Gerry after sideboard would be something like turn 1 Mana Accelerator, turn 2 anything, whether it's a Loxodon Smiter, whether it's a Domri, something that hits the table, and then a turn 3 Burning Earth. If that happened to me and I were Gerry Thompson, I would be really, really scratching my my head, wondering what to do, and then knocking the top of the deck, hoping to find a Detention Sphere or a Oblivion Ring.
Yeah, rocking a hard place is where he'll be if that does happen. And, the other thing that's kind of interesting too is that because Tenjum has access to Thompson's deck list, he knows that he has an Oblivion Ring, he knows that he has a Detention Sphere. You see 2 copies of Ray of Revelation in Tenjum's sideboard. No, not a sure thing that he's going to board those in, but would I be surprised to see him maybe blow out Thompson with one of those? Not at all.
The game begins. Thompson, land. Andrew, there's the acceleration, Avacyn's Pilgrim.
Gerry gonna untap that Sulphur Falls. He might be on a Buddy Land draw here. Okay, we do see a Steam Vents over there, so it looks like he is okay. He's gonna play that untap. Excuse me. He's gonna take 2 damage. He's gonna pass the turn back. So he's representing a counterspell or potentially a Think Twice. As we are now being informed that Dave Shields, our other blue-white-red Flash Mage, he is up a game over Eric Smith playing Jund.
Turn 2, Andrew Tenjum. The uncounterable Loxodon Smiter hits the table.
Cannot counter that one, so if Gerry was trying to represent Essence Scatter, which he does have in his hand, Smiter's going to blow that plan up, and this is what you see with the individual threats. Tenjum really doesn't have to commit very much to the board. He's got 5 points of power on the board. That's 4 attacks. So it's on Gerry to actually stop this beatdown from the elephant with a hammer.
Andrew Tenjum has also drawn the white-red counterspell Boros Charm, and he does have a red mana in his hand. So should a Supreme Verdict come on in and try to wipe the board, if Andrew leaves the mana open, he would be able to use Boros Charm to make his creatures indestructible.
Yeah, and 4 damage is so much. You see a Smiter attacking for 4, but to be able to have a card in your deck that is 2 mana, instant speed, 4 damage, pick your spot with that appropriately, is absolutely backbreaking.
Andrew trying to decide what, well, he's attacking with a Smiter.
Yeah, when Gerry does have a Azorius Charm in his hand, the question is he going to cash it in? He's going to actually end up taking 4. He's going to get pushed down to 14. And I want to see if Tenjum is going to add something to his board here or not.
We're going to find out. He has not yet laid a land. There it is, Sacred Foundry. Takes 2. 2 mana. Scavenging Ooze.
Now, Gerry is obviously a very accomplished, a very skilled player, so this is a very loud declaration of I have a Boros Charm. If he is not attacking with that Avacyn's Pilgrim and not keeping up green mana for Scavenging Ooze, what else could it be?
There's the
honestly.
Supreme Verdict. He cycles the Azorius Charm, draws the Supreme Verdict.
It's a very, very loud declaration. Will Thompson see through this or just go for it?
I mean, he might not have the white mana to even have the choice.
Yeah, he's currently short 1 white mana. He has a Clifftop Retreat, but no other white mana, as he flashes a bit of a smile here, looking to kind of smooth out his draw. But I think he knows, just like you guys know at home, just like we know here in the booth, even if I had white mana, I don't think I could cast Supreme Verdict here. It's just a trap.
I think he might have, if that's a Snapcaster into an Azorius Charm as a possible play.
Yeah.
And that would be a 2 power versus a 2 toughness, because there are no creatures yet in a graveyard, and he could trade with the Scavenging Ooze.
And that's the kind of trade that he wants to make at this point in the game. So in comes the Smiter and in comes the Ooze, and maybe we'll see the play that you did discuss from Thompson, where he can play a Snapcaster Mage into a Azorius Charm, provided that he does have a copy of Tiago Chan in his hand.
Tiago Chan, the Snapcaster Mage, winner of the Magic Invitational a few years back. Look at this, though. From the clouds, an angel jumps into the way of probably that Ooze. There it is.
Now, does Tenjum want to use Boros Charm here to give his creature double strike to push this angel out of the way? That's the question now. He can give it double strike, make it so that it deals 4 points of damage to the angel. He'd be trading a Boros Charm and a Scavenging Ooze for a Restoration Angel. But, is that how he wants to navigate the game? Is he okay with making that 2-for-1 trade on himself to get that thing out of the way?
Now remember, with that Scavenging Ooze, that Snapcaster could block the Ooze, but the Azorius Charm would likely be gobbled up by the Ooze. Yep. So the Restoration Angel here eats the Ooze. We have 4 damage to Gerry's head.
Not the worst trade there.
Is that another land? Ground. There we go. 2 more damage to Andrew Tenjum.
So let's see what he wants to do here. Playing that, is he going to play a follow? So it looks like he has a Boros Reckoner in his hand. It looks like he can play Boros Reckoner and still leave up a Boros Charm. Now, how does he tap his mana for this? Because it's a little bit safer if he uses the Avacyn's Pilgrim to tap the mana instead of the land. So that's exactly what he's going to do. And again, a loud declaration of, yes, I have Boros Charm in my hand. Can you stop it?
Island drawn by Gerry Thompson. Still not able to cast the Supreme Verdict, but he does have a Restoration Angel in play.
So he is going to play that Island, still a white mana away from casting Supreme Verdict, so Thompson's just going to pass the turn back to Tenjum, who will draw a card here. Into the red zone goes everybody.
Remember the Snapcaster.
Yeah, it might be time to pull the trigger on that.
You can see a Snapcaster come into play, target the Azorius Charm, potentially get rid of any of those big creatures, and then have 2 blockers available to defend himself against Andrew Tenjum.
Yep. So here is Snapcaster Mage from Thompson. Going to use an Island and a Ghost Quarter to cast that. Says, I will target an Azorius Charm. You see Tenjum's hand right now, 2 copies of Boros Charm there. Here are your blocks. Maybe.
Now, of course, it looks like Gerry's really in a lot of trouble here, but it's not over yet. Azorius Charm can be cast from the graveyard.
So you see Restoration Angel is going to get in front of Boros Reckoner, Azorius Charm is going to get cast on the Smiter, and then the Snapcaster Mage and the Pilgrim will trade. Reckoner's going to go upstairs. It's going to knock Thompson down to 7, and provided that Tenjum does have 2 copies of Boros Charm in his hand, this game will be over 1,
uno, dos,
and 2.
That
is it. So Andrew Tenjum is going to win game number 2 with his Naya deck over defending champion Gerry Thompson with blue, white, red flash. Thompson's back is up against the proverbial wall now.
Yeah. I know that one of my friends who won a PTQ with a similar Naya list said that when he played against blue, white, red flash, a different list for both players, that it was one of his easiest matchups all day. And the reason being, just what you saw there in game 1 and in game 2, he could put something relevant on the table on turn 2, and then as the game developed, the other player on the back foot the whole time, cards like Reckoner, cards like Smiter, things like that causing a real problem. And then you know what? They tap down to try to stay alive, finish him off.
There's nothing, it shouldn't be understated how efficient Tenjum's threats are. Again, Boros Reckoner, Loxodon Smiter, Gore-Clan Rampager, Thundermaw Hellkite, Scavenging Ooze, Voice of Resurgence. Those are the heavy hitters in his deck, and all of those cards are efficient at their mana. They have a lot of high power. They deal a lot of damage. So as a result, 2 or 3 hits from those creatures ends up putting Boros Charm in range of being lethal so very quickly. We saw that game where Smiter got in for 2 hits. It's all of a sudden, okay, Thompson's down to 12. He's got to play a Shockland or 2 on tap. Now he's down to 8, or he's down to 10. Things start to get a little bit more difficult. Now Tenjum has a Boros Reckoner. He's keeping up Boros Charm. Thompson can't do what he wants to do, and things get so incredibly difficult for him. Again, if the game goes long, I think things favor Thompson, excluding Domri. But Tenjum is going to do what he can to make it so the games don't go long with his efficient threats and the fact that he has so many Boros Charms in his deck at their sideboard. It's really funny, Adrian, because remember the first time you saw Boros Charm?
Yeah.
So I remember the first time I saw it. I remember the first time Patrick Sullivan saw it. And he goes, this is a real card. This is actually something that can happen. And it didn't really find a home. And, the place we've seen it probably more is Modern than Standard, oddly enough. And now you see it in this matchup, and it really just shows you again, Boros Charm is a ridiculous Magic card in the right matchup.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely absurd. 2 mana, 4 damage is insane. Making your creatures indestructible is insane. Giving your creature double strike in the appropriate situation. All 3 modes in this card are completely bonkers. And I know that when that card was released, a lot of people were like, yeah, this is the best card in Gatecrash. What are we talking about here? And then it just kind of falls off the map, falls off the radar. And you see how much stress it puts on Thompson in this matchup, where it's so clear. Tenjum could have put Boros Charm face up on the table and just said, yeah, I have this.
Yeah.
So, you can try to beat this if you want to. I don't think you can if I just keep it up the entire time.
I mean, I think Boros Charm is so good that it was a card I was running 4 of in a Modern PTQ as soon as I was able.
Yeah. And that's kind of telling, where it's crossover to Modern. It has its implications in that format. But I honestly believe if Tenjum would have put it up face on the table, first of all, I think we both agree Gerry knew that he had Boros Charm in his hand. I think Gerry knew he had 1. It's pretty clear he didn't know he had 2. But he could have put it face up on the table and said, yes, so you have to work your way around this, and I'm never going to not have it available. I'm going to build the entire way I play the game with this up to be used. Can you beat this? And I think Gerry would have said, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I cannot do that this game. So for Gerry, he needs it to be that, those Boros Charms are in Tenjum's deck and not involved in his strategy of creature, and leave Boros Charm up forever.
Now let's pretend that Gerry had the second white mana in order to be able to cast that Supreme Verdict. Mm-hmm. It would have been one of the other modes, right? But it would have been a similar amount of damage. Gerry would have used his entire turn to try to kill 3 creatures.
Yep.
Andrew Tenjum would have said, no, indestructible. It's not a counterspell, but it kind of is.
Yep.
And then come cracking on in for 8. Very similar in how it would work.
And that's not one of the reasons that people have moved towards Terminus is Boros Charm, but it makes that move towards Terminus make even more sense for people who are playing Esper, for some people who are playing Blue-White Red, so that cards like Boros Charm, like Xantid Necromancer, aren't such backbreakers. Supreme Verdict, as good as an Uncounterable Wrath is, there's a lot of baggage that comes along with it because cards have been printed to make it so that this card is not unbeatable.
We see our turn 2 Avacyn's Pilgrim. Always exciting to lay your Avacyn's Pilgrim on turn 2. But to be fair, even though it's less exciting than turn 1, there are potential turn 3 plays that have 4 mana. So, including Gore-Clan Rampager, if those weren't sided out.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if he left those in because that is the ultimate trump to a Restoration Angel. That's kind of why Gore-Clan Rampager is seeing a lot of play. You can finally make that attack without any fear of your opponent having a Restoration Angel or simply just not caring if they have it. And, don't forget this happens to be a 4/4 Trampler.
In for 1. You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, might as well start whittling away, which is what the Pilgrim's going to do. We're probably going to see a 3-drop here. It's going to be the Uncountable Loxodon Smiter again. And, Thompson going towards Counter Magic, as we mentioned, with Dissipate, Essence Scatter, and Syncopate, 5 counter spells that would oftentimes counter a card like that. Does not counter the Smiter, but Supreme Verdict will do a nice job of cleaning things up here for Gerry.
Another land in Andrew Tenjum's hand. Domri?
Yeah.
Domri. What's on top?
Time to refuel.
This
Boros
Reckoner. Gosh, just look at this. Gerry just on the back. I mean, there's no creatures in play, but I still feel like Gerry is on the back foot here.
I do too, because now Tenjum is starting to attack from different angles. Now he's starting to threaten the Domri Naya ultimate. He's also got efficient creatures coming as he misses with this Domri activation, because every creature he plays, again, is going to be incredibly efficient and it demands an answer on its own. They cannot be ignored because that damage, we often call it incremental damage, but it feels like it's more than that because it is so much. It's oftentimes 3 or 4. So now he has to be able to stop all the creatures and stop the Domri. Essence Scatter will do a nice job of stopping the Reckoner. Tenjum will slide in a Pilgrim, play a Gavany Township, and pass the turn back.
Still has a creature in play now. The Essence Scatter getting rid of 1, but not 2. And Domri Rod is not a Howling Mine, not a personal Howling Mine, but it's pretty close.
I mean, it depends on what day it is.
That's true. I have seen it be close, but you know, whenever I've activated Domri, it's like me casting Augur of Bolas. It's a whiff.
Yeah. You know, it's one of the more frustrating cards I've ever played with, because when it's on, boy, is it tough to beat.
Boy.
And when it's off, it feels awful. It just feels really bad. You have to keep looking at a land on top of your deck, or you can look at a Boros Reckoner and add it to your hand.
That Gavany Township, the only non-color producing land in Andrew Tenjum's deck.
It's a pretty good one to have. As you see, a Clifftop Retreat's going to come in. Tenjum going to start adding some mana to his mana pool. Looks like we're going to see that Boros Reckoner he drew off Domri. Is this okay? Gerry says that it is. We're going to move that Avacyn's Pilgrim to the back row. Here comes another Boros Reckoner.
Wow.
And you see in Thompson's hand, he does have a Supreme Verdict. He's going to Revelate for 3. So a baby Revelation, going to push him up to 22. But for Gerry, I think this is how you want the games to actually go. He's at 22. He's able to resolve a Revelation. He has another Wrath in his hand, and Tenjum can't play Boros Charm. Now he just seems to be able to try to control that Domri. That's the last piece to the puzzle.
Yep. That was 3 extra cards from the Sphinx's Revelation. We're going to see a Supreme Verdict knock away 3 cards on the table.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of card advantage. Is it going to be enough?
So Thompson's going to pass the turn back. He does have a Syncopate in his hand. He can Syncopate for 2. Tenjum has 6 mana in play, so if he doesn't have a land for Thundermaw Hellkite, it would get countered. But Voice of Resurgence shows up here from Domri. Nice way to start the turn here again for Tenjum, but he's just going to pass the turn back.
Gerry untaps 2 things to deal with: a potential ultimate Domri and a Voice of Resurgence. 1 Pillar of Flames in hand. Get out of here, Voice.
All right,
any other damage?
I mean, he's got to deal some damage over to the Domri. He can't let the emblem happen here. He's got a Pillar of Flame.
There is
in his
another
hand.
pillar. Okay.
He's got to knock it from 7 to 5, which stinks, but you got to do what you got to do. You can't beat the emblem. It cannot be done. Into play as a Sacred Foundry. Thompson could have played that untapped so that Syncopate could be for more, but he chooses not to.
And Andrew just sneaks back up, almost there again.
Yep. Gonna miss with that activation here. So if he doesn't have a creature, which it looks like he's going to here, what is this gonna be?
Tap, untap, tap.
All right, so
Smiter.
it's a Smiter.
Counter this.
So for Gerry right now, it is his job just to take care of that Domri. That's all that he needs to do. He draws a Restoration Angel here. As we do have a quick update for you guys. Dave Shields, the other blue-white-red Flash player, up 2 games to 0 over Eric Smith in his Jund deck. So he's looking to make it to the finals to play the winner of this Tenjum versus Thompson matchup. We could have a blue-white-red Flash mirror between 2 very accomplished players, or we could see Andrew Tenjum continue to make a name for himself with his Naya deck play against Shields.
You know, right now, things are looking really grim here for Gerry Thompson.
It's not the prettiest game I've ever seen. Here comes a Temple Garden untapped.
Think about this. A Temple Garden untapped at this stage in the game?
Yep.
That is pretty crazy. There must be a lot that Andrew Tenjum might want to have access to doing.
2 mana. There's a Scavenging Ooze.
Ouch.
Thompson says that's fine. He's going to pass the turn back. Restoration is going to come in and get no value, but it has to come in because it has to go after Domri.
Domri going to take a hit. Syncopate still in Gerry Thompson's hand.
Multiple copies of Pillar of Flame over to Domri. He must go. Domri's going to go down to 4.
Does he double Pillar to get rid of the Domri?
You know, it's funny. I think it's worth it. Yep. So he's going to do this.
Remember how he gained 3 cards from the Revelation? Well, there were 3 cards pointed right at that Domri to get rid of it.
So for Gerry right now, you're going to see a Gavany Township activation on the end step from Tenjum. Going to make Scavenging Ooze into a 3/3. and that Smiter into a 5/5. For him right now, he's looking for a Snapcaster Mage, maybe on a Supreme Verdict, or he's looking for another Sphinx Revelation, but Tenjum does have a Boros Charm in his hand, so he does have the reach, and he's going to come in here for a bunch of damage.
A 5 and a 3-power creature. Creature's already in the graveyard for that Scavenging Ooze, so it could certainly be more should Andrew Tenjum want it to be. Not to mention the Gavany Township. But he doesn't do anything. He respects the possibility of an Azorius Charm.
Yep. Pass back. Thompson draws his card. Looks like an Augur of Bolas.
There's the Augur.
Hit 1, 2, and 3. Azorius.
Oh boy.
So this is a decision between Azorius Charm and Turn and Burn. It's actually a pretty important one at this stage in the game, too.
One of the problems that Gerry has here is that the turn part of Turn and Burn not very effective against the counters on those creatures.
Yeah, so Turn and Burn is going to make it into an 0/1 creature, and then because of the counter, it's going to become a 1/2. Now, the burn part of it will actually finish it off, because it'll be a 1/2, but if another counter is placed on a Loxodon on Smiter, for example, then it won't die, because it'll be a 2/3 with 2 damage on it, and then, of course, Scavenging Ooze can just grow because it can put counters on itself. So Scavenging Ooze is actually a very nice card against Turn Burn.
He takes the Azorius Charm. And I think we're going to see a massive growth here for our heroes, the green creatures.
So up goes a Smiter, up goes an Ooze. No activations of the Ooze on the end step either, keeping up Boros Charm the entire time. Doesn't want to get, feels like he doesn't want to get War Leader's Helix or anything like that. So he's going to just untap, keep going, because realistically, Adrian, those creatures are big enough.
Yeah, I mean, a War Leader's Helix there would have been devastating.
And he's going to start off his turn again pre-combat with a Voice of Resurgence. So if Thompson's going to play anything, this is going to punish him. He's going to cycle an Azorius Charm. Thompson draws a Hallowed Fountain. Doesn't have enough mana to syncopate this Voice of Resurgence.
I think we might be at that stage where Thompson is looking to chump block and then hope to rip something to stay alive.
Yeah, it feels like we're in chumping territory here for Gerry. This matchup coming into this, a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
You know, like I said, my friend that won that PTQ, he said he tore through 3 of these decks, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0.
Yeah, and if Blue-White Red Flash is going to pick up, and this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought Gerry might be able to just trade removal, resolve a big revelation, which is what his game plan was game number 1, but there's no guarantee that those revelations are going to find what they're looking for. So, Thompson draws 2 copies of Hallowed Fountain, one from the Azorius Charm, one for his draw step. And it is over. Gerry Thompson concedes the game and the match. Andrew Tenjum defeats the defending champion. Naya is going to be moving on to the finals. 1 Blue-White Red Flash deck down, potentially 1 more to go. And what that means is we are going to have a new likeness on a token, a new $10,000 check being handed to somebody, and a new trophy being hoisted this weekend at this Invitational.
You know, this is the 3rd time we've had Naya versus Blue-White Red Flash on the camera. 7-0 in games so far.